The guy that really set me on fire was Mike Bloomfield. And Michael took it upon himself to show me some electric guitar tricks, many of which I use to these days. So Michael showed me that if you're bending a string and you want it to be pitch specific, especially in an era when a lot of guys are still playing wound thirds, to use three fingers in that one string instead of one, because it gave you a lot of control, so you could actually control the pitch of the string. And a lot of times, I obviously wouldn't do that playing acoustic guitar because I use all my other fingers for different stuff. But I do when I play electric guitar. And as a result, we were joking about it the other day, I could still accurately bend the 4 frets, 2 whole tones, and have it be in pitch.
Wow.
Wow. That's amazing.
Who knows how long that's going to last. But anyway, so Michael showed me that. And the other thing was, if you're putting a little bit of grease on the string like that, to use this part of your palm as a fulcrum on the neck of the guitar, and you're actually using, if you can see, you're actually using your whole elbow and pivoting these fingers to bend those notes. I mean, everybody does this a lot of different ways. So Michael just got me all fired up, and that East West album, that Butterfield Blues Band of those days, that was an incredible show. There's kids today that can do that kind of stuff in their sleep, but back then it was magic.
At what point did you start getting into using pedals and stuff like that? Was that in the airplane or?
Yeah, yes. Oh, absolutely. So one of the first pedals that I got was that Gibson, their Fuzz Tone was a pedal that had the cable built into it. And of course, as soon as I heard Cream, I had to get a Vox Crybaby. And I still have 4 of them. The 1965 Thomas Organ Company pedals that Analog Man went through for me, so they were great. So those were the 2 pedals that I used for a while. And then, of course, after that, things began happening, and now we all use lots of that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
I know some interesting guitar players that don't use pedals that can make all those noises with their hands and stuff like that, but it's not the 1990s anymore. And there's a lot of really great stuff out there. That being said, imagine if you develop an incredible thing, whatever your thing is, but it's predicated on having these pedals that actually work all the time. Because as we know, they don't always work all the time. Right. So that means you have to have at least 2 of everyone.
I have about 5 Electro-Harmonix Holy Grail pedals, which are like a spring reverb simulator. Yeah. And the thing is, the reason I've stockpiled them is because it's a chip in there. Yeah. And it does sound really good for a lot of things. Right. But once the chip is gone, the pedal's gone. So I have found a bunch of them, and it's the original release. I feel like I use it so much that once it blows up, I can't.
I totally understand. Yeah. Speaking of Electro-Harmonix, I'm really fond of their Mini Qtron. Mm-hmm. And I've been touring with over the last couple of years with Rob Ikes and Trey Hensley, and Trey was using the Mini Qtron on his acoustic guitar. I said, "What is that thing?" So he told me. So of course I had to buy one immediately. One of the things that I like to do, like when I don't use that many pedals, but I've got my go-to pedals also. So one of the things that I like to do is I have one of Alfonso Herminer's Zen drives. Actually, I've got a bunch of the ones that when he was still making them himself. That's always my first pedal in line before the wah, before anything. So to send a nice overdriven signal into the Mini Qtron and have it set up so that when you just make a sound or strum a cluster of notes or whatever, and it cascades down the envelopes, it does unpredictable things. And I'm really fond of that. I remember when the Eventide's phase shifter that I had back in the day, single rack space thing, and then of course the harmony that nobody like me could understand in a million years, and all this really neat stuff, And so for a guy like me, like I got the black hole thing, I did some overdubs on something that I'm working on for a project that who knows what will come out, but I got some interesting sounds. I love the sound of that thing. The stuff we can do with it is ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Totally. Think about, some of the great producers that a guy like me has been able to work with, Rick Gerard, who did Surrealistic Pillow. That's a pop rock record in a lot of ways, but it's very well produced. And all the other stuff we did after that with Al Schmitt producing,
Right.
I mean, because Al Schmitt had golden ears, and, he and I stayed friends up to the day that he died. And his ability with mic placement was gold.
It's funny. He once told me he got dosed doing a live show of the airplanes. He was doing a remote somewhere, and he got dosed. And he said it was one of the best nights of his life.
Right. You know, that's some funny shit, really. You know, yeah, he did. And to his credit, he didn't bat an eye.
Right. You played with Janis Joplin in the early 60s.
Sure, yeah. You know, that's another one of these just synchronicity and confluence. You know, I wound up at the University of Santa Clara. The year that I went in there was the first year they were co-ed. I had already lived on my own in New York. I actually had relationships with adult women by that time. You know, the upperclassmen that were there were pissed because there were women at school. I kept thinking, have you guys lost your mind? And so anyway, so I'm walking around. I'm definitely one of the two weirdest people on campus. And there was a little flyer. It was about a hootenanny. So I went to that hootenanny, which was the folk theater, which became the offstage later. And I get in there, and Janis was there. The folk theater back then was a tiny, like a single width little shop. The stage was in the window. Your back was to the window. I doubt that it held more than 50 people, if it held that. So it was me, Janis, this guy Steve Talbot. He actually played on one of the Hot Tuna records. It's a really incredibly authentic white blues singer who actually worked for the railroad, the Southern Pacific Railroad, which made it even better, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
In any case, so we're just sitting around
Wow.
and we're backstage and, hey, I'm so-and-so, you're so-and-so. And I had just moved to California from the New York area. And it became apparent to both me and Janis at that time that we're both sort of like living in the same area, the same, you know, artistic area. And even though I didn't know the song she did, I knew the song she did, you know. And we just started playing together. And Steve played some harmonica that night. There's tapes of this floating around. Back in those days, none of us had cars. So the 50 miles that it took to take the Greyhound from San Francisco to San Jose was an all-day event because it stopped every 20 feet, you know. So when Janis was up in North Beach and stuff like that, she had the guys that she would play with up there. And when she came down to San Jose, you know, that after I met her at that first night at the folk theater, at the offstage rather, whatever she needed, somebody down the peninsula, I was that guy. But the thing is, like, I remember the first time I heard her, I was blown off my feet. And I realized she's the real deal. This is, you know, and to get to play with her, it's like something, you know, I'd been playing that long, maybe 2 years at that time. But I realized this is, you know, this may never happen to me again. But all of us who heard her realized that this is a very special woman, you know, a very special artist, and that's the deal, you know.
For extras from the episodes, like playlists, links, and videos, head over to gearclubpodcast.com. Sign up for the newsletter, and come say hi and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Gear Club Podcast. Thanks for listening.
And please, if you like what you hear, let us know and leave a review.